So my point, I've got a lot of them here, but my point is you don't have to spend a lot of money in order to throw a really lovely party. Since we're talking about money and budgets and spending plans, I wanted to give you 10 money saving tips when it comes to planning a party. So tip number 1 is perhaps instead of hosting a dinner, you think about hosting appetizer and cocktails or something alternate to a dinner, because dinner can sometimes be expensive. So think about, instead of dinner, maybe host something else. I find that brunch is relatively inexpensive to host because it's really not a lot of money, for eggs and bacon and some toast and some really cool jams. Actually, brunch can be as elaborate or as simple as you want, but in general, brunch can be less than actually hosting a dinner. Tip number 2, if you are hosting a dinner, think about using pasta. So pasta is a really great cost-effective way to host a dinner party. And what's really super fun is a pasta bar. So maybe you make 2 different kinds of pasta and you offer a couple different kinds of sauce, and guests can create their own. You set up a pasta bar with their own toppings. So think different cheeses, maybe different hot peppers, vegetables that they can put on top, herbs like some fresh basil or parsley. So you can do something really cool with pasta. Tip number 3 is it's okay to ask guests to contribute. And most guests don't mind. Like, most guests may ask you, what do you want me to bring? And in that case, it's perfectly fine to ask guests to bring an appetizer or bring a dessert or perhaps bring a bottle of wine, so that then you can focus on the main and then your guests can supplement with the other things. Tip number 4 is think about maybe borrowing from friends or family. If you can borrow it instead of buying it, obviously you're saving money. So a couple things that I borrowed in the past. My in-laws have a couple of folding tables that are like perfect when we're hosting party. Folding tables, folding chairs. So I don't necessarily have to buy them. We just go over there and borrow them. Tablecloths. You can borrow plates, platters, glasses. I had a girlfriend of mine who was hosting a party and didn't have enough champagne flutes. So she just reached out to her girlfriends and was like, hey, do you guys have champagne flutes? Because I want to use them to host this party. And we brought them, and it saved her from having to buy champagne flutes. So along with number 4, I know I said borrow, but also thrift stores. Thrift stores are a great place to find items to entertain with. I did do a YouTube video that was my thrifting finds, things that I find, things that I actively go looking for at thrift stores for entertaining. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that you don't have to spend a lot of money on, and you can get yourself all set up to entertain in style. So I'll link that. I'll send you a link for that. Tip number 5 is to limit the alcohol choices. So that doesn't mean not offering alcohol. That just means offering a more limited choice. So you don't offer a full bar. And here's where a signature drink comes in handy. So I like to do signature drinks only because it's fun and it can lend itself to the theme of your party. But a signature drink also cuts down on the other alcohol you have to buy. So maybe you offer a signature drink and you offer, 1 or 2 other, maybe a red wine and a white wine in addition to. So you don't have to offer the full bar in order for it to be a good party. Tip number 6. So instead of going out and buying flowers, look around your place. Look around what kind of greenery or shrubs, or could you be creative about foraging for a centerpiece? So I've done it before, especially for Thanksgiving, is the leaves are turning a beautiful color. So getting some of those colorful leaves and putting them on the table. A couple of Christmases ago, we had some branches come down from trees in our yard, and I saved the branches. I spray painted them white, and I created this really tall tablescape for Christmas Eve. So on those white branches, I put little fairy lights, and I hung a couple of ornaments, and it was a wow piece because it was a big piece, and I did not spend a lot of money on it. So get creative about the centerpiece. You probably have things around your house that you can use, or things outside that you can already use in nature that you don't have to pay for. You can use food as a centerpiece. So maybe you have a really beautiful cake that you're going to be serving for dessert. You can set that up really nicely as a centerpiece. Or fruit in a bowl with some greenery makes a really lovely centerpiece. Like, you just need that and some candles and you're golden. Tip number 8 is to have your menu plan done ahead of time. And the reason why I say that as a tip is that if you know what you're going to be serving, then you can keep an eye out for sales at the grocery store that go along with your menu plan, or even like your decorating, right? So menu plan and decorating, try to get that done ahead of time, what you're going to be doing, and then that way you can shop for sales. Tip number 9, forego the paper invitations. Now, if you're hosting a wedding, some people are still going to want the invitation as a keepsake. But for most everything else, you can send an e-invite and save yourself the paper and the postage. So there's companies like, a lot of people know Evite, for email invitations. There's also Paperless Post, and Punchbowl are another one. But what I like to do is, because a lot of my family and friends are already on Facebook, I will set up a private event on my Facebook page. And then from there, I will invite people. And then that keeps track of the guest list, who's RSVP'd and who's not. But my favorite part about that is by creating that Facebook private event, after the party, I can upload pictures that I took, and other guests can upload pictures that they took to that event. So it's really nice to have that in one spot that you can like look back and refer to, and just remember those good times from the party that you hosted. And tip number 10 is kids' activities. Listen, you don't have to do the big giant bouncy castle or have dancing princesses or like exotic pet zoo. Like you just don't. You don't need to do that. Kids don't need all that to be entertained. And I think sometimes it's more the adults that are doing it for themselves. So all I'm saying here, if you want to do that, like, go right ahead. You do you, right? Each of us has our own personal taste. But my point here is, if you're trying to save money, kids don't need a lot to be entertained, right? Set up a craft area for them. Maybe you do a special like movie premiere with like popcorn and all the fixings and make it special. Maybe they play old school board games. Maybe you take them to a park where they can like run around and play baseball or tag or whatever. Like, be creative here. I mean, kids don't need all those big expensive things in order to be entertained, I guess is my point. And then the bonus tip, really the bonus tip is, when you're planning your festivities, the most crucial way to keep costs down is to just keep things simple. And maybe you pick 1 or 2 areas where you're going to wow your guests. So maybe you keep the menu simple, but then dessert is like this really like awesome thing. All I'm saying is, you can keep things simple, pick 1 or 2 things to wow guests with, and you will still have a very lovely party. So my point, I've got a lot of them here, but my point is, you don't have to spend a lot of money in order to throw a really lovely party.